never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am trying to make sense of what's happened. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Emily, for about 5 years now. We got married young, had a kid on the way, our first, a girl we named Lily, and for a while everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. Looking back, there were these small signs, little things I brushed off because I loved her or because I didn't want to see the truth. Emily's always been a bit of a bitch, honestly. She's sharp-tongued, sarcastic, and can be downright mean when she's annoyed. But she's also charming when she wants to be, and she's always been good at hiding her true feelings behind that bitchy veneer. I guess I was blinded by the good stuff, the moments she'd smile at me or cuddle Lily, or the times she'd say she loved me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Still, I remember feeling that something was off, especially during my pregnancy. She was more irritable, more distant, more secretive about her phone, always hiding it, texting someone, or so it seemed. It started when I'd catch her looking at her phone in the mornings, quickly hiding it when I walked into the room. I'd ask her who she was texting, and she'd roll her eyes, dismissing it as just some work stuff or a friend from college. Yeah, right. I remember one night she stayed out late with her friends, and when she finally came back around midnight, she was furious with me for asking where she'd been. She snapped at me, called me paranoid, told me I was overreacting. But I had that gut feeling gnawing at me. Something wasn't right. Then came the small things, her phone vibrating constantly, her changing her passwords, deleting messages. I'd find her in the bathroom, whispering into her phone or giggling at a text. I even saw her clutch her phone tightly when I was around, as if she was hiding something. But she'd deny it all. Call me crazy. Say I was paranoid or insecure, that I didn't trust her. I mean, I wanted to trust her, really I did. But after a while, those little signs turned into cracks in the facade I'd built around our marriage. The worst part was feeling helpless, not knowing exactly what she was hiding, but knowing she was hiding something. And then came the moment that changed everything. I was cleaning out her purse one day, just being nosy because I'd had enough of her secretive bullshit, and I found a slip of paper with a phone number. Nothing special on its own, just a number. But I remembered the way she'd clutch her phone so tightly, the way she'd ignore my questions, the way she'd lie about where she'd been. Something clicked. That night, I decided to dig a little deeper. I had her phone unlocked for a brief moment, careless on my part, I know, but I saw the messages. At first, I thought maybe I was wrong seeing things, but no, it wasn't just a friendly conversation, it was more. She'd been secretly texting a guy named Tyler for weeks, maybe longer. They'd been talking about meeting up, sharing intimate details, even about sex. The messages weren't just friendly banter, they were flirtatious, explicit even. I felt my stomach drop when I read how she called him babe, how she said she missed him, how she was willing to lie about anything just to see him. I sat there, stunned. My wife, my partner, the woman I loved, was cheating on me during my pregnancy. With my own brother, no less. That's what made it worse. I couldn't believe it. I kept rereading those messages, trying to find some explanation, some reason I was overreacting or misinterpreting. But there was no mistake. She was having sex with my brother behind my back, secretly texting him, lying about everything, and I was just a pawn in her game. It's a bitter pill to swallow, realizing the woman you loved and trusted was capable of this level of betrayal. I've spent countless nights questioning myself. Was I just a fool? Did she ever love me, or was I just a placeholder until she found someone better? And my brother, how could he do this? How could he betray his own brother? I've never felt so betrayed, so angry, so broken. And I still don't know what to do with all these feelings. After I found those messages, everything felt like it was crashing down around me. I sat there in the dim light of the living room, clutching her phone like it was a weapon and a curse at the same time. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Had she been lying to my face all this time? Was I just completely blind? The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even worse was knowing she'd been sneaking around, hiding it from me while I was carrying her child. I remember feeling this intense mix of rage and sadness. I wanted to scream at her, to confront her right then and there, but I also knew I had to be careful. If I lost my temper, she'd just deny everything or turn it around on me. So I took some deep breaths and waited. When she finally came home that night, I was sitting on the couch, the phone still in my hand. She looked surprised, maybe because I wasn't yelling or crying like I expected. Instead, I said, "Emily, I need to talk to you about something serious." She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her, and immediately started with her usual defensiveness. "What now, Jake? Just tell me what I did wrong this time." Her tone was bitchy, sharp, like she was trying to dismiss whatever I was about to say. I took a deep breath and opened her phone, showing her the messages. Her eyes widened for a second, then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, please, that's not what it looks like," she said, crossing her arms. I felt my blood boil. "Not what it looks like? Are you kidding me? You've been secretly texting Tyler, talking about sex, meeting up, and you're telling me it's not what it looks like?" My voice cracked a little, but I tried to keep my composure. She leaned in, sneering, and said, "You're overreacting. It's just sex, Jake. It's nothing, it's not a big deal. I was just bored, that's all. You're just paranoid because of the pregnancy." I couldn't believe what I was hearing, that she was brushing this off like it was nothing, like I was just some jealous idiot. I asked her why she'd lied, why she'd been sneaking around behind my back. She shrugged and said, "Look, you're acting like I cheated on you with the neighbor or something. It's just sex, Jake. It doesn't mean I love him or that I don't love you." Her words felt like knives. She kept insisting it was just a fling, a mistake, that it meant nothing, that she didn't love Tyler and she didn't want to ruin our marriage. But I knew better. I knew those messages weren't just meaningless texts. The way she talked to him, how she called him her babe, how she said she missed him, none of that screams casual. And the fact that she'd lie so easily, deny everything, even when I had proof, looked me dead in the eyes and told me it was nothing, made me realize how manipulative she could be. She's always been good at spinning stories, twisting the truth, pretending to be the victim. I felt this deep sense of betrayal I couldn't shake. I loved her. I wanted to believe she loved me too, but how could she? How could she do this while I was pregnant, while we were supposed to build a family? I looked her in the eyes and told her I needed some time to think, that I couldn't just brush this under the rug. She rolled her eyes again, scoffing, and said, "You're overreacting. You always blow things out of proportion, Jake. You're just insecure." In that moment, I felt my world shatter. The woman I married, the woman I trusted, was lying, cheating, and mocking me. I couldn't sleep that night, replaying her words, the betrayal, the lies. I kept asking myself, was she just a bad person, or was she never really mine to begin with? Did she ever truly love me, or was I just a pawn in her game? I was supposed to be her husband, her partner, the father of her child, and all this time she was sneaking around with my brother, lying to my face. The truth was, I didn't know if I could ever look at either of them the same way again. My mind was clouded with anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. I felt so lost, unsure if I should just pack my bags and leave, or fight for what was left of us. But deep down, I knew this wasn't going to be easy, that this was just the beginning of something much worse. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and mind-numbing anger. I couldn't get her lies out of my head. Every time I saw Emily, I felt this wave of disgust and sadness crashing over me. She kept insisting it was just sex, a meaningless fling, and that she loved me, how she'd never hurt me intentionally. Yeah, right. I wanted to believe her, but the truth was, I felt like a fool. How could she lie so easily, dismiss everything I found out, and expect me to just forget it? I kept asking myself if she ever really loved me at all, or if I'd been just a pawn in her game. I didn't want to believe she could be that cold and manipulative. But seeing her blow off my concerns, brush off my questions, and lie to my face so effortlessly made me realize she was good at hiding her true self. I started noticing more things: her texts still popping up on her phone, her being overly defensive whenever I brought up her whereabouts, her changing her routines. She cover her phone when I came into the room, act irritated when I asked questions, and even started staying out later with friends. She told me she didn't want me to worry, that I was overthinking, but I knew better now. This wasn't just about her having sex with Tyler. It was about the lies, the deception, and the fact that she'd been cheating during my pregnancy while I was carrying her child. One night I decided enough was enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, especially not when I was so hurt and betrayed. I needed to confront her again, demand the truth once and for all, so I waited until she was in bed. I took her phone while she was asleep. I know it was wrong, but I was desperate. I needed answers. I scrolled through her messages again, trying to catch anything new, and sure enough, I found more. She'd been chatting with Tyler daily, sometimes multiple times a day. They arranged to meet up, exchanged explicit photos, and even talked about meeting in a hotel. I could feel my stomach knot up again. All this time I'd been working, trying to support her through her pregnancy, loving her, and she was out there fucking my brother. It was like a punch in the gut every time I thought about it. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was ready. I woke her up in the middle of the night, her eyes half closed, annoyed at being disturbed. "Emily," I said, voice low. But tense, "I found out everything. I know about Tyler. I know you've been lying to me, cheating on me. How could you do this during my pregnancy while I was trusting you?" Her face twisted into a sneer. She sat up, glaring at me. "You're overreacting. You don't know what you're talking about. This is all some big misunderstanding." She tried to brush it off like I was just being paranoid. But I was. I knew the truth, and I wasn't going to let her spin her way out of it this time. Her reaction was cold and defensive. She started crying fake tears, calling me controlling, jealous, insecure. She said she never loved Tyler, that it was just a mistake, a moment of weakness. She told me she didn't want to lose everything we had, that she loved me and Lily, and that she was sorry for hurting me. But I wasn't buying any of it. I could see the lies in her eyes, the false remorse, the manipulative tone she used to try and guilt me into forgiving her. That night I felt a storm brewing inside me. My heart was shattered, but I also knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep living in this lie, pretending everything was okay when I knew the truth. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not as a wife, not as the mother of my child. The betrayal was too deep. I started thinking about what I needed to do, about protecting my daughter from this mess, and about my own sanity. I didn't want her to use tears or guilt to keep me in this relationship. I had to be honest with myself. I deserved better, and Lily deserved a father who wouldn't be constantly betrayed. I spent the next few days in a fog, trying to process everything. I talked to a few close friends who told me I needed to think about my options carefully. Do I stay and try to fix this? Do I leave and start over? Honestly, the thought of raising Lily in a house filled with lies and betrayal made me sick. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was planning to lay everything out. No more hiding, no more pretending. The trust was broken, and I had to decide if I could ever rebuild it or if I was better off walking away for good. The day I finally decided to confront her again, I knew I couldn't hold back anymore. I was tired of pretending I was okay, tired of the constant ache in my chest every time I saw her smirk or deny everything. I wanted the truth, all of it, no matter how ugly. I told her I needed to talk, just her and me. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her, but I didn't care anymore. We sat in the living room, her arms crossed, looking like she was prepared for another fight. I pulled out her phone, showed her the latest messages, more proof that she'd been lying and cheating. I told her I knew about her affair with Tyler, that I'd seen everything. Her face went blank for a second, then she threw her head back and laughed, that bitchy, dismissive laugh she always had. "You're insane, Jake. You're just jealous. You're making up stories because I didn't do anything." I clenched my fists. "No, Emily. You're the one making up stories. I saw the messages, the pictures, the plans to meet up. You're cheating on me during my pregnancy, and you think I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen, that I'm supposed to act like everything's fine." My voice was rising, but I fought to keep it steady. I wanted her to understand how much she'd hurt me, how much she'd betrayed everything we built. She rolled her eyes and scoffed again. "You're so insecure. Honestly, I don't even know why I married you. You're always suspicious, paranoid, needy. I was just having some fun, Jake. It doesn't mean anything. Sex, like I said." She leaned forward, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're just jealous because I'm better looking and smarter than you. Tyler's just a guy and I was bored, that's all it was." That comment hit hard. I felt like I'd been punched. The way she dismissed everything like I was some insecure fool who couldn't handle a little fun made me realize how little she valued my feelings. I couldn't believe she was so callous, so manipulative. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself, make me feel guilty for catching her. I told her I wasn't going to stand for it anymore, that I was done playing her game. I told her I was leaving, that I needed to protect Lily from her lies, and that I couldn't stay in a marriage built on betrayal. Her response? She burst into fake tears, acting like she was the victim. "You're ruining everything," she sobbed. "You're overreacting. I love you. I love Lily. I made a mistake, but I want to fix this. Please don't throw everything away. We can go to counseling. We can work it out." She looked so desperate, so insincere, I almost felt like I was going to break down just looking at her. But I knew better. I saw her for what she really was, the manipulative, selfish person who lied and cheated her way through my pregnancy. I looked at her, and I felt this mix of heartbreak and anger. I didn't want to hurt her, but I knew I couldn't stay. I had to do what was right for me and Lily. I told her that I needed space, that I'd be staying at my brother's house for a while, that I needed to think about everything. She begged, pleaded, cried more. But I just couldn't look at her the same way anymore. That night I packed a bag and left. I didn't tell her where I was going at first. I just needed to get away, get some clarity. But deep down, I knew I wasn't coming back. I'd been betrayed so deeply, I didn't think I could ever forgive her, no matter how much she begged or how many apologies she threw at me. All the love I had for her had turned into bitter disappointment. I took Lily with me because I didn't want her to grow up in a house full of lies and betrayal. I wanted her to know her dad loved her more than anything. This whole thing has been a cold, hard wake-up call. I realize now that I was more invested in her than she was in me. That she never really loved me. She just loved the idea of having a family, a life she could manipulate. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again, or if I'll ever get over the pain. But I do know I won't be a pawn in her twisted game anymore. I've learned that sometimes the hardest thing to do is walk away from someone you thought was your everything. The days after I left were some of the loneliest of my life. I stayed with my brother, and honestly, I didn't want to be alone. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her lies, imagined what she was doing with Tyler now. It was like my mind was stuck in a loop of betrayal and regret. I kept asking myself if I'd made the right choice, if I should try to fix things or just cut her out completely. But deep down, I knew that trust was broken beyond repair, at least for now. I tried to focus on Lily. She was only a few months old, but even her tiny smile was enough to remind me why I needed to stay strong. I kept telling myself that I was doing this for her future, for my own sanity. Still, the hurt gnawed at me constantly. I felt so betrayed that I couldn't even look at my own reflection without seeing a guy who'd been played for a fool. I kept replaying that night, her fake tears, her manipulative words, how she'd lied about everything. It made me furious. How could she do this while I was carrying her child? How could she lie so effortlessly and then try to guilt me into staying? People told me I should consider legal action or even take her to court over custody, but honestly, I wasn't ready for that. I just wanted to get through the day without feeling like I'd been crushed. I started going to therapy, not because I thought I'd fix everything overnight, but because I needed to talk to someone who wasn't emotionally involved. The therapist said I was right to feel angry, but that I also needed to forgive myself for trusting her so blindly. That was hard to hear. I kept thinking about the times she told me she loved me, how she used to cuddle Lily and pretend everything was normal. I never saw the lies coming. Meanwhile, Emily kept reaching out. At first I ignored her, but then she started sending those fake apologies, texts, emails, even crying phone calls. She'd beg me to come back, say she'd changed, that she loved me, that she was sorry for hurting Lily and me. But I saw through her act. She was just trying to manipulate me, trying to get me to come back so she could keep her hold on me, or maybe to save her own skin. I refused to be played again. I told her I needed time, that I was done trusting her, and that any future conversations had to be about Lily and nothing else. Some nights, I'd lie awake and think about Tyler, about how he'd betrayed his own brother like that. I'd never expect him to do something like this, and yet I found out he'd been texting Emily for weeks, openly flirting, sharing explicit stuff, planning to meet up. It's crazy. The brother I always thought I knew turned out to be just as bad as her. I kept asking myself how I could have missed it, how I could be so blind. I always thought family was supposed to come first, but now I felt like I'd been played by two people I loved most. There was a moment during those dark days when I almost reached out, almost begged her to come home, just to see if I could fix this. But I caught myself. I remembered everything, her lies, her manipulation, her callousness, and I realized I couldn't rebuild what she'd shattered. I couldn't trust her again, not after knowing she'd been sneaking around during my pregnancy, lying every step of the way. I'd lost so much because of her, and I knew I had to let go completely. What I've learned from all this is that sometimes love isn't enough to fix everything. Trust is everything. Once it's broken, no amount of promises or tears can put it back together. I'm not saying I won't feel this pain forever, but I am saying I'm starting to accept it. I'm trying to see this as a wake-up call, that I deserve better, that my daughter deserves a stable, honest life. And honestly, I just want to find peace again. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I need to keep moving forward for myself and for Lily. It's been a few months now since I left Emily and cut her out of my life. At first, every day was a struggle, waking up with that sick feeling in my stomach, wondering if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. But slowly, I started to rebuild my life, piece by piece. I got a better job, moved into my own place, and focused all my energy on being a good father to Lily. Seeing her grow, seeing her smile, reminded me why I had to keep fighting for stability. She's been the only bright spot in this mess. Looking back, I realize how much I was blinded by love, how I overlooked the signs, how I made excuses for her. I kept telling myself she'd change, that maybe she'd realize she made a mistake, but deep down, I knew trust was gone. She lied, manipulated, and cheated on me during what should have been the happiest time of my life, pregnancy, expecting our first child. That betrayal sealed it. I learned that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away, even if it hurts like hell. I learned that family can be the most brutal of betrayals, and that the people you trust the most can turn out to be the ones who hurt you the deepest. That realization has made me more cautious, more careful about who I let into my life. I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to leave behind someone who was supposed to be my everything. I'm proud that I chose my daughter and myself over a lie. Now I'm focusing on healing. I go to therapy, talk openly about everything I've been through, and try to remember that I'm not alone. There are good days and bad days, but I know ultimately I'll be okay. I've found peace in the fact that I can still love, still hope, but I have to be careful who I trust next time, because now I know better. Love has to be earned, trust has to be built, and betrayal, especially during such a vulnerable time, can't be taken lightly. My advice to anyone reading this who might be going through something similar: don't ignore the signs. No matter how much you love someone, if they're lying, sneaking, cheating, especially during pregnancy, your gut is probably right. Don't stay out of guilt or fear. Protect yourself and your children. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to repair, so don't waste time trying to fix something that's already shattered. Walk away if you have to. Healing starts with leaving behind what hurts you, and in the end, you'll find that your strength was always there, you just had to believe in it.